I'm delighted that you're here. There will be a light lunch afterwards, but most important, we have a star of the university, one of only 3 university professors, but Sarah's going to do the introduction, please.
Hi, as Robin mentioned, my name is Sarah Hurray. I'm a senior here at Tufts in civil engineering, and I just wanted to say what a pleasure it has been to work with the X-College this semester, and for their encouragement in this series. It's been a really great experience. I would encourage anybody else that has a great idea to bring it forward to them. So it is my pleasure to welcome our last Taste of Tufts lecture series for this semester. Professor Dennett is the Austin B. Fletcher Professor for Philosophy and the co-director at the Center for Cognitive Studies here at Tufts. He's written numerous books on philosophy and the science of the brain. He's the recipient of 2 Guggenheim Fellowships, a Fulbright Fellowship, a fellowship at the Center for Advanced Studies in Behavioral Science. He was elected to the American Academy for Arts and Sciences in 1987, and he's the co-founder and co-director of the curricular software studio here at Tufts. He's worked with what I thought was really interesting, the Smithsonian, the Museum of Science, and the Computer Museum in Boston designing exhibits. So please give it up for Professor Dennett.
It's good to see on this beautiful day that anybody would sit inside. I'm already very grateful to you and flattered. I'm going to be talking about some research I've been doing here at Tufts. It's Tufts supervised research, sponsored research on a topic where some people just find it hard to believe that it's real, but it's this clergy who are not believers, but who have congregations. They are still in the pulpit, but they've lost their belief in God. They're atheist clergy, basically. And the way this got started was that when I was working on my book, Breaking the Spell, about religion as a natural phenomenon, I realized that I just didn't know well any deeply religious people. I'd met deeply religious people, but that none of them were my close friends. And I wanted to just talk to some people, deeply religious people, so that I got a better sense of how they thought, how they talked, what they didn't like to hear, just because I wanted people like that to be able to read the book. So I asked around, I asked my friends, who do you know that's really religious, where religion is central to their lives? And I'd get names. It was interesting, here in the northeast of the Boston area. There's so little of this that, a lot of people say, I don't know. I've never met any such a person. Reminds me of Francis Crick when he wrote his book, The Astonishing Hypothesis. He's out there in La Jolla, of course. And he finished the book. This was supposed to be a trade book for everybody. He showed it to a colleague or two and said, what do you think? Is this going to work? And one of them said, Francis, you really should show it to some lay people and have them read it. I said, but I don't know any lay people. So that's the way I felt. I don't know any deeply religious people. But by following up the leads I got, and sometimes I'd have to go 2 or 3 deep. I'd talk to that person. Well, they weren't the right person to talk to. Eventually, I got not that many, more than a dozen, less than 100 people who would be willing to have a deeply confidential conversation with me about their religious views and about their life in religion. And it was all off the record. I didn't record it. I just wanted to learn how to talk with them. And I'm so glad I did it because I discovered an amazing thing. To me, I was really surprised. Not all of them. I would say about half, but sample's too small for it to matter exactly how many. But roughly half of them said to me, oh, I don't believe any of that. They don't believe the creed of the church that they're working hard on, that they're devoting their life to. And I said, you don't? I said, no, that's not what church is about. That's not what religion is about. All that creed stuff. No. And in fact, a lot of them, it was very clear, and it was sort of amusing to me, they were treating me as Father Confessor. They said, I've never told anybody this before, but I just don't believe a word of it, and it doesn't matter. Well, that was very interesting, and believe me, it had its effect on the book. because I devoted all of 6 pages, as some of my critics objected, to whether or not God exists. That's not the issue. It wasn't for these people, so I wasn't. Other people, so much has been written for and against the existence of God. I just gave it the tiniest little treatment because everything that's been done elsewhere. That's not the issue. Well, one of the readers of the book was a really wonderful interviewer, a trained, professional, qualitative interviewer, a woman named Linda Lascola. And she'd read that. I mentioned at the beginning of the book, or somewhere early in the book, that I had these interviews, and she said, you know, I bet there are pastors out there right now who actually have congregations who are not believers too, and I bet their life is interesting and difficult. And she said, let's see if we can find some, and I'll do the interviews, completely, deeply, deeply confidential. Well, I didn't think there was much chance of it working, but it was a very interesting idea. And I said, well, okay, I'll see, but it's going to be expensive because, you know, she wasn't going to do this for free. That's just her job. She needed to be paid as a researcher. And a few days later, it was talking about luck, I got an email from a man in Canada who was a fan of my work, and he said, I've just come into a small fortune, which is more money than I need, and I've set up a little foundation, and since I really admire your work, I wonder if you could give me any ideas about what sorts of projects I might fund. Well, funny you should ask. So his foundation provided the initial funding, I think just what, $25,000, I think that first funding was, which was enough for phase 1. And we're just finishing up phase 2 now, and we've got like about 3 times more money than that for phase 2. And phase 3 will be more expensive, but it will be more ambitious. Well, now, were we actually going to find these people? Well, we did. And it wasn't easy, it was tricky. And we had various ways of getting in touch with people. You know, one thing you can do is, if you know a pastor that you think might be, actually, you can say, describe the study and say, can you think of anybody you know that maybe you could put us in touch with who might want to talk with us? And sometimes they say, nope, nope, and that's the end of it. You know, but a few things like that work. And there's an organization called the Freedom from Religion Foundation, FFRF, which you may have heard of. It's got a big presence, a good website. And that's run by a man named Dan Barker, who was, for many years, a preacher and is now an ex-preacher. And his whole life, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, his whole life is helping people recover from their years of religion. And it's going very well, actually, that project. And he had some leads. Also, there were several other organizations for helping preachers in trouble. And we got 6 volunteers. The idea was that they would have, I think, 3 lengthy, at least an hour-long interviews, completely private, clandestine, you know, so that there was no chance of them being sort of traced or followed. And then the interviews were transcribed. They were taped and transcribed. All of this with proper IRB, you know. We went through all the protections, and we did phase 1 and published it in 2 places, more or less simultaneously on the web. One was the Washington Post's website called On Faith that Sally Quinn runs, and they published it there. And then there was a whole forum of commentators, including some heavy hitters, people like Martin Marty and Alvin Berg, I can't remember his first name, Albert Berg, theologians, things like that. And the result was fascinating. First of all, one of the 6 dropped out. It was the only woman in our study, and after she'd done the interviews and she'd said all sorts of amazing and wonderful things, and we'd written it all up, and then she said no, she decided she'd made a big mistake, she didn't want to be part of it. Boy, we just took her right out. We don't want anybody ever to think that that they're being used or exploited or having their arms twisted. I want people only who approve of what they're doing. So she's out of the state. She may come back in. She's talking with us. She may think now that she sees how it's gone, she may want to get back and let us use her stuff. We were sympathetic to these people. In fact, the main message I think I have about this so far is these are people who are caught in a trap which is baited with goodness. Here's how it goes. You grow up in a relatively secluded community which is sort of deeply religious, and as a young person you want to lead a really good life. You want to help other people. You want to make sure that you do a lot of good in your life. You look around and the only role models that really strike you are the local clergy. So you say, that's it, I'm going to be a clergyman. I'm going to go to seminary and become a minister and have a flock. They get to seminary and they learn things that nobody ever told them in Sunday school. And a lot of them are shocked and angry. And the ones that are really shocked and angry walk away. And they're the lucky ones. The ones that say, no, I can make this work. I've made this commitment so far, and I'll find a way of reconciling what I now heard and reconciling my own beliefs with what the church says I'm supposed to teach. And they stay through, and they eventually get ordained, and they get out and get a church. And they're waiting for their doubts to be resolved. They're waiting for that a dark night of the soul to dawn, and it doesn't come. And now they've made promises